All predators on the station stepped aside for the human. Even prey species recognized the true apex. The transport shuttle's doors hissed open, and Commander Alina Reeves stepped onto Nexus Station for the first time. She carried a single bag over her shoulder and wore a simple gray uniform with no weapons visible. Her brown hair was tied back in a practical ponytail, and her dark eyes scanned the arrival terminal with quiet attention. Nexus Station was enormous. The main corridor stretched ahead like a metal canyon, with shops and restaurants lining both sides. Holographic signs flickered in dozens of languages. The air smelled like a mixture of exotic spices and recycled oxygen. Thousands of alien species lived and worked here, making it the largest trade hub in this sector of the galaxy. Alina walked forward, her boots making soft sounds on the polished floor. She had traveled 3 weeks to reach this place, sent by Earth's diplomatic corps to help resolve a growing conflict between two powerful alien factions. Then something strange happened. A massive creature blocked the corridor ahead. It was a Krell warrior, standing nearly 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and arms like tree trunks. The Krell were known across the galaxy as apex predators. They hunted for sport on their home world and hired themselves out as mercenaries and guards. This one wore armor plating across his chest and carried a plasma rifle on his back. The Krell noticed Alina approaching. For a moment, he stared at her. Then slowly he stepped to the side of the corridor. His head dipped slightly, almost like a nod of acknowledgement. He pressed himself against the wall to give her space. Alina walked past him without changing her pace. She didn't look surprised. She simply continued forward as if nothing unusual had happened. But it was unusual. Very unusual. Kix, a station security officer, witnessed the entire exchange from his position near the information desk. Kix belonged to the Tremory species, small blue-skinned beings with large eyes and delicate frames. The Tremory were a prey species, always cautious around predators like the Krell. Kix had worked on Nexus Station for 5 years, and he had never seen a Krell warrior step aside for anyone except another, larger Krell. Yet this human woman, who stood barely over 5 feet tall and weighed perhaps a third of what the Krell weighed, had made him move with just her presence. Kix watched as Alina continued down the corridor. Other species noticed her now. A group of saurian traders, reptilian predators with sharp teeth and quick reflexes, parted around her like water flowing around a rock. A Vraxian merchant, one of the insect-like species known for their aggressive business tactics, actually backed into his own shop doorway as she passed. "What is happening?" Kix whispered to himself. His partner, a larger officer named Drex, who was a Krell himself, stood nearby reviewing security reports on his data pad. Drex was Kix's supervisor and normally ignored most station activity unless it involved actual crimes. "Drex," Kix said quietly. "Who is that human?" "Commander Alina Reeves," Drex said, his voice a deep rumble. "From Earth's diplomatic corps." Then he said something that confused Kix even more. "Because they are smart." She was a Vraxian crime lord who controlled most of the illegal trade on Nexus Station. Her kind resembled giant praying mantises, with blade-like arms and compound eyes that saw in multiple spectrums. Veskara was feared by nearly everyone on the station, including security officers like Kix and Drex. Veskara was watching Alina walk through the terminal below. As Alina passed directly underneath her balcony, Veskara turned and walked back into her private restaurant. She abandoned her meal and her guests, simply leaving without a word. Kix felt his breath catch in his throat. Veskara had retreated. Veskara, who once killed 3 Krell warriors in a dispute over territory. Veskara, who had made station administrators disappear when they tried to investigate her operations. That Veskara had seen the human and decided to leave. "I need to understand this," Kix said to Drex. "What is special about humans? She looks so ordinary. She is smaller than most species here." Her fingers moved across the holographic interface with practiced ease. She found what she needed, nodded to herself, and headed toward the elevator banks that led to the diplomatic quarters. Kix made a decision. He was security, after all. It was his job to know about potential threats on the station. And if everyone from Krell warriors to Vraxian crime lords feared this human, he needed to understand why. "I am going to follow her," Kix told Drex. "I will observe and file a report." That is what the Korvax Dominion said before humanity destroyed their entire battle fleet. It is what the Shard Collective said before humans hunted them across 8 star systems. Small does not mean harmless, not with humans. Never with humans. He had no idea that what he was about to learn would change how he understood the entire galaxy. Kix followed Alina through 3 levels of Nexus Station, always keeping a safe distance. She moved with purpose but never seemed to hurry. She stopped once at a water dispenser, drank calmly, and continued toward the diplomatic quarters. Nothing about her behavior seemed threatening, yet everywhere she went, the same pattern repeated. Predator species moved aside. Prey species watched with something that looked like hope in their eyes. Alina finally entered her assigned quarters in the diplomatic wing. Kix waited outside for a moment, then returned to the security office. He needed answers, and the station's database was the best place to start. The security office was quiet during this shift. Kix sat at his terminal and entered Alina's name into the search system. The basic information appeared first. Commander Alina Reeves, age 38, diplomat with 12 years of experience, assigned to conflict resolution in contested territories. But when Kix tried to access her mission history, a warning appeared on his screen. Restricted access level 5 clearance required. If the official records were blocked, perhaps he could learn more from the station's residents. People always talked, especially in the commercial districts. Kix left the security office and headed to the Central Market, the largest trading area on Nexus Station. Hundreds of species gathered here every day to buy, sell, and exchange information. If anyone knew about humans, it would be the merchants who traded across the galaxy. He found what he was looking for at a small shop that sold navigation charts. The owner was a Tremory like himself, an elderly female named Sela who had traveled to more star systems than most pilots. "Sela," Kix said respectfully, "may I ask you something?" "What troubles you?" "Then you should know what we call them in the trade networks. We call them the persistent ones. They killed 30 humans and stole supplies. The Korvax thought it was over, just another raid. They followed them across 3 star systems, through asteroid fields, past military blockades. They never gave up. They never forgot. When they finally caught them, the humans did not show anger. They simply brought them to justice, one by one, calm, patient. Determined. Maybe not next month, but they will come. A Saurian trader told him about a human negotiator who memorized every clause of a 1,000-page treaty in a single week, then caught the other side, trying to hide unfair terms in the fine print. A Vraxian merchant described how human traders never showed emotion during deals, making it impossible to read them or manipulate them. An old Krell arms dealer, missing one arm from past battles, spoke with unusual respect about human soldiers. "They are small," he said, "but they fight with something we do not have. They call it spite. Even when they are losing, they refuse to accept defeat. I have seen humans win battles they should have lost, simply because they would not stop fighting. They were feared because they were relentless." He returned to the security office and tried the database again. This time, he contacted his supervisor Drex and asked for help accessing the restricted files. Drex looked at him for a long moment. "You are certain you want to know?" Several aggressive species had attacked human colonies, thinking them easy targets. The humans appeared weak. Their technology was average, and they lived on only one planet at the time. But the reports told a different story. One file described the Korvax Dominion's invasion of a human mining colony. The Korvax were powerful, their fleet massive. They destroyed the colony's defenses in hours, but the human miners did not surrender. Instead, they retreated into the asteroid field surrounding their colony. For 6 months, they conducted guerrilla attacks. They sabotaged Korvax ships. They learned Korvax patrol patterns. They adapted and changed their tactics every week. The Korvax commander wrote in his report, "These humans do not fight like civilized species. They do not accept honorable defeat. They treat war as a problem to be solved, not a contest to be won. I cannot predict their actions. I cannot break their will. I request immediate reinforcements." The Korvax fleet eventually surrendered, not because humans defeated them in battle, but because humans outthought them and outlasted them. Another file described the Shard Collective, a species of hive-mind crystals that attacked human research stations. The humans tracked them for 8 years across multiple star systems. 8 years. The shards could not understand this persistence. They eventually agreed to peace, not because they feared human weapons, but because they feared human memory and determination. Kix read file after file. Each one showed the same pattern. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest or the most advanced. But they had something more dangerous than any of those things. They never forgot. They never quit. And they always eventually won. Drex closed the files. Now you understand. They hunt across time itself. The promise of human persistence, human memory, human patience was more frightening than any blade or gun. I need to speak with her, Kix said suddenly. I need to understand more. That is either very brave or very foolish. There was something more to humanity than just their ability to hunt and remember. He wanted to understand what made them truly apex. Kix spent the rest of his shift thinking about how to approach Commander Reeves. He could not simply knock on her door and ask why everyone feared humans. That would be rude and possibly dangerous. But he was also security, which gave him legitimate reasons to speak with new arrivals. He decided on a simple approach, a courtesy visit to ensure she had everything she needed. The next morning, Kix stood outside Alina's quarters and pressed the door chime. He heard movement inside, then the door slid open. Alina stood there wearing casual clothes and holding a cup of something hot that smelled like earth coffee. Yes, she asked, her voice polite but not particularly warm. Commander Reeves, I am Officer Kix from Station Security. I wanted to make certain you have settled in properly and answer any questions you might have about Nexus Station. You followed me yesterday from the arrival terminal. I think we should talk. You want to know what makes humans frightening, Alina said. It was not a question. I want to understand, Kix replied carefully. I have read reports. I have spoken to merchants. Everyone says humans are dangerous, but you do not look dangerous. You carry no weapons. You are smaller than most predator species. Yet even Krell warriors and Vraxian crime lords avoid you. Earth is a beautiful planet, but it is also a difficult one. Humans evolved as prey animals originally. We were not the strongest creatures on our world. We were not the fastest. We did not have claws or fangs or venom. Many animals could kill us easily. We developed a hunting strategy called persistence hunting. We would track an animal, chase it until it was tired, let it rest, then chase it again. Over and over. For hours, sometimes for days. Eventually, the animal would collapse from exhaustion, and we would simply walk up to it. We win by never stopping. Humans also developed extraordinary pattern recognition. We see connections that other species miss. We remember details for years, decades even. We plan ahead, thinking about consequences far in the future. And most importantly, we refuse to accept unfair outcomes. Other species might accept defeat or decide the cost of justice is too high. Humans do not think that way. We believe some things are worth any cost, any effort, any amount of time. Not because we are violent, but because we are relentless. If you make an enemy of humanity, you have not made an enemy for a day or a year. You have made an enemy for generations. We will remember what you did. We will teach our children to remember. And someday, somehow, we will balance the scales. When we make a promise, we keep it. When we form a bond, we honor it. When we protect someone, we do not give up on them. Ever. A voice spoke over the intercom in multiple languages. All security personnel report immediately. Violence in Commercial District 7. Repeat, violence in Commercial District 7. What kind of violence? You should stay here where it is safe. Other people were fleeing in the opposite direction, away from District 7. Kix could hear shouting and the sound of plasma weapons discharging. When they reached the district, Kix saw chaos. The Korath faction, large reptilian beings, were fighting with the Melker faction, insect-like creatures with sharp limbs. Both groups were armed. Shops were damaged. Civilians were hiding behind barricades. More security officers were arriving, but they stayed at the edge of the conflict, trying to establish a perimeter. No one wanted to step between two groups of armed predators. Then Alina did something that made Kix's blood turn cold. She walked directly into the fighting. Commander, no, Kix shouted, but she was already moving forward. Alina walked calmly between the two factions. Weapons were firing, bodies were moving in combat, and she simply walked through it all, her face completely calm. Enough, she said. Her voice was not loud, but something about it carried across the district. A Korath warrior 3 times her size turned to face her. "Human, leave now or you will be hurt. You will stop fighting now or you will regret it. I know you have 3 children on your homeworld. I know you own property on 2 planets. I know who your allies are, who your suppliers are, who you borrowed money from. I learned all of this in 2 days, Thorak, 2 days. Now imagine what I will know in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years." Elena's voice remained calm, but every word landed like a hammer. "Imagine what humanity will know. We do not forget, Thorak, we do not forgive, and we do not stop coming." Both factions were staring at this small human woman who stood unarmed in the middle of their battlefield. "You can continue fighting," Elena said. "You can ignore me, and when you do, humanity will mark you. We will track you. We will know everything about you, about your families, about your operations. And when the time is right, we will come for you. Maybe not today, maybe not this year, but we will come and you will answer for what you have done." Elena looked at both factions. "Or you can stop now, you can talk, you can find peace, and humanity will be your ally instead of your hunter. The choice is yours." Then Thorak lowered his weapon. His compound eyes reflected the emergency lights in strange patterns. "Words mean nothing, human," Zethai said, his voice clicking and harsh. "You speak of tracking us, of patience, of humanity's long memory, but these are just stories. Prove to us that humans are what you claim. Prove you are truly Apex. It shows who is stronger, smarter, faster. If I catch you before time ends, humans leave this station and forfeit all negotiation rights. If you survive until time ends, we both agree to your mediation. If the human survives your hunt, Zethai's, we will accept her authority to negotiate." He was faster than any human with better senses and natural weapons. How could Elena possibly survive 6 hours against him? "I accept," Elena said calmly. Kix felt his heart sink. "Commander, you do not have to do this." "Yes, Officer Kix, I do. Sometimes words are not enough. Sometimes you have to show people what you truly are." Inside were forests, streams, hills, and caves. The dome's sky simulation showed an Earth-like afternoon with scattered clouds. Hundreds of spectators gathered outside the dome's viewing areas. Word had spread quickly through the station. Everyone wanted to see if the human could survive against a Melker hunter. Kix stood in the control room with other security officers. Drex was there as well, his face unreadable. "She will not survive," another officer said. "Humans are not built for this." Zethais waited at the opposite entrance, his body coiled with predatory readiness. The timer began. Elena entered the dome and immediately started running. The cameras tracked her movement through the forest. She ran at a steady pace, not sprinting, just maintaining a constant speed. She crossed a stream, climbed a small hill, and disappeared into denser forest. 30 minutes later, Zethais entered the dome. He moved with terrifying efficiency, his 6 legs carrying him much faster than any human could run. His antennae twitched, sensing the air. His compound eyes scanned in multiple directions at once. He was a perfect hunting machine. Within 15 minutes, Zethais picked up Elena's trail. He followed her path across the stream and over the hill. He moved faster, knowing he had the advantage. Hour 1 passed. Zethais caught sight of Elena twice. Both times, she slipped away at the last moment, using terrain to her advantage. She rolled under fallen logs, scrambled up rocky slopes, ducked through narrow passages between trees. Each time, Zethais had to slow down or change direction, losing precious seconds. "She is good," Drex commented. "She knows the terrain." He had the speed advantage, the strength advantage, and better senses. But Elena kept escaping. She was not fighting him directly. She was simply staying ahead, using every rock, every tree, every small advantage the terrain offered. Kix noticed something interesting on the monitors. Each time Zethais chased Elena, she led him in a slightly different direction. She was not running randomly. She was learning his patterns, testing his reactions. Hour 3 changed everything. Elena started leaving false trails. She would step in mud, letting her footprints show clearly, then double back on rocks where she left no trace. She broke branches to suggest she had gone one way, then went another. Zethais followed these false trails, wasting energy and time. The hunter was becoming frustrated. Kix could see it in his movements. Zethais was moving faster now, making mistakes, letting emotion override his training. Hour 4 arrived, and Zethais was breathing heavily. His 6 legs, so quick at the start, were moving slower. He had been running at full speed for hours, while Alina had been conserving her energy, running at a steady pace and using her brain instead of her body. Alina appeared on one monitor, standing still for the first time. She was drinking water from the stream, completely calm. She knew exactly where Zethais was because she had been tracking him just as he had been tracking her. Hour 5 was when the roles truly reversed. Zethais stopped to rest under a large tree, his body exhausted. He had run so hard, so fast, burning through his energy reserves. Melkur were sprint predators designed for quick bursts of speed to catch prey in minutes, not hours. But humans were marathon predators. Alina began tracking Zethais. The cameras showed her moving through the forest, following his trail, getting closer. She was not running now. She was walking, saving her remaining energy. Zethais heard her approach and tried to run again, but his legs were too tired. He moved slowly, desperately trying to reach better hunting ground. Hour 6 arrived. The timer showed only minutes remaining. Zethais had collapsed near the dome's center, his body unable to continue. Alina walked up to him calmly and stood a few meters away. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a water container. "Here," she said, tossing it to him. "Drink." On Earth, our ancestors would chase animals for days until they collapsed from exhaustion. We do not win by being stronger in a moment. We win by being stronger over time. We adapt, we learn, we remember, and we never ever stop. Alina had survived. The viewing areas erupted in noise. Species were talking excitedly, some arguing, some nodding in understanding. Kix watched as both Thorak and other faction leaders approached the dome entrance. When Alina and Zethais emerged, the Melkur hunter spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "I have never been defeated in a hunt trial. I am faster, stronger, have better senses. But the human won by using what I did not have: patience, planning, and endurance that does not end. If this were real, I would have led you into an ambush. My people would have been waiting. Humans do not hunt alone, Zethais. We hunt in packs. We plan together. We share information. And we use every advantage we can find. But humans also know when not to hunt. We know when to make peace instead of war, when to build bridges instead of walls. That is why I am here, not as a hunter, but as someone who wants to stop the hunting. I accept your authority to mediate, Commander Reeves." Humans were apex not because they were the best at fighting, but because they were the best at everything that came before and after the fight. The planning, the patience, the persistence, and most importantly, the wisdom to know when not to fight at all. The conference room in Nexus Station's diplomatic wing was filled with tension. Alina sat at the head of a long table with Thorak on her left and Zethais on her right. Representatives from both the Korath and Melkur factions occupied the other seats, their eyes watching each other with suspicion. Guards lined the walls, ready for any sign of trouble. Kix stood near the door with Drex, observing everything. Station Administrator Kelvin had granted security permission to monitor these negotiations. Everyone wanted to see if the human could truly bring peace. Alina placed her hands flat on the table and looked at both faction leaders. "Yesterday, you both witnessed what humans can do. Zethais, you hunted me and learned that humans outlast their opponents. But today, I want to show you something more important. I want to show you what humans choose to do with that ability. You speak in riddles, human. We pursue peace with the same determination that we pursue justice." The Korath discovered the asteroid fields first and claimed them. The Melkur found mineral deposits on the 4th planet and needed those same asteroids for processing. Both sides believe they are right. Both sides have spent fortunes on this war. The resources are limited. Only one faction can control them. Time goes to conflict instead of production. Lives are lost that could have built something better. The Korath retain ownership of the asteroid fields, but the Melkur receive 35% of all mining profits. In return, the Melkur provide their processing facilities at reduced cost. Both factions share security expenses and transportation. But there is one more element to this agreement. And if either faction breaks this agreement, breaking this agreement would mean having humans track you, remember you, and eventually bring you to justice. It might take months, it might take years, but humans would come. Zethais spoke first. "And if we honor the agreement, then you will have humanity as your ally. We will protect your operations. We will help you expand into new markets. We will remember your honor and your commitment to peace. Human memory works both ways, Zethais. We never forget our enemies, but we also never forget our friends. The Korath accept these terms, Thorax said slowly. Zethais was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. The Melkur also accept. I will remain on Nexus Station for 2 weeks to ensure smooth implementation. Human observers will arrive within 1 month. When old anger surfaced, she acknowledged it but redirected focus to future benefits. When confusion arose, she explained carefully until everyone understood. When either side tried to gain unfair advantage, she firmly brought them back to balanced terms. Kix watched in amazement. This was Apex behavior too, he realized. Not the hunting and chasing from yesterday, but the building and creating of something lasting. Alina wielded patience and wisdom the same way other predators wielded claws and teeth. By evening, both factions had signed the preliminary agreement. Guards who had expected violence that morning were now sharing drinks with former enemies in the station's restaurants. After everyone departed, Kix approached Alina in the empty conference room. She was organizing her data pads, looking tired but content. "Commander Reeves," Kix said respectfully, "may I speak with you?" "About what makes you Apex, but I still have one question." "Why?" "Humans spent thousands of years fighting ourselves. Tribe against tribe, nation against nation. We nearly destroyed our own planet multiple times. We killed millions of our own people in wars. We wasted resources on weapons when our children were hungry. Eventually, we learned a truth that changed everything. Conflict is the most expensive choice. War costs more than peace, not just in money but in opportunity. Every resource spent on fighting is a resource not spent on building. Every life lost is a mind that could have created something wonderful. Every friendship destroyed is a partnership that could have made everyone richer. When our neighbors are stable, our borders are safe. When trade flows freely, everyone prospers. When people work together, they achieve things impossible alone. Cooperation is not weakness, Officer Kix. Cooperation is the ultimate strength. To create systems where everyone wins. Alina smiled. Humans are apex because we learned that the best way to protect ourselves is to make the entire galaxy better. When everyone around us succeeds, we succeed. When our neighbors are at peace, we are safe. You hunt wrongdoers relentlessly, but you also protect allies relentlessly. She showed them how to resolve small disputes before they became large ones. She helped them see each other as partners rather than enemies. News of the peace agreement spread through Nexus Station. Other species facing conflicts requested human mediation. Merchants reported increased trade now that the fighting had stopped. The station administrator praised Alina publicly for bringing stability. On Alina's final day, a ceremony was held in the central plaza. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species gathered to watch. Thorak and Zethais stood together at the podium, announcing their joint venture officially. "The Korath and Melkur have fought for 40 years, Thorak said, his deep voice carrying across the plaza. "We believed only one faction could succeed. Commander Reeves showed us that both factions could succeed together. She showed us that cooperation is stronger than conflict. But today we learned to value these same qualities. When humans remember friendship, they are the most loyal allies. When humans promise protection, they never abandon that promise. We are honored to call humanity our partner." Species that avoided humans just weeks ago now applauded one. After the ceremony, Kix found Alina at the transport dock, preparing to depart. Her shuttle waited nearby, ready to carry her to the next station, the next conflict, the next opportunity to build peace. "Commander," Kix said, "I wanted to thank you. You taught me more in 2 weeks than I learned in 5 years of security work. You stayed curious instead of staying distant. Those qualities will make you a great officer." "Humanity keeps me busy." She picked up her travel bag. "But human observers will come to monitor the Hespera system. If the Korath and Melkur honor their agreement, humanity will remember and reward their integrity. And if they break it..." Both of them understood. Kix watched her board the shuttle. Through the window, he saw her find her seat and begin reviewing data pads for her next assignment. Always working, always building, always persistent. The shuttle launched, carrying her toward the stars. Drex approached and stood beside Kix. "You have learned much, partner. They are the most dangerous enemies and the most valuable allies." But now Kix understood it was not just fear that moved them. It was respect. Respect for a species that combined the determination of a hunter with the wisdom of a builder. A species that tracked enemies for decades but also protected friends for generations. A species that understood the greatest strength was not in destroying opponents, but in creating partnerships. A species that was truly apex in every way that mattered. Kix returned to his security duties with new understanding. When other officers asked about the human diplomat, he told them what he learned. Humans were not just persistent predators. They were persistent builders. They did not just remember wrongs. They remembered kindness. And that, Kix now understood, was what made them the true apex species of the galaxy.